So this is going to be another episode of my Who Manchester United Should Sign in 2023 series. All of the previous episodes in this series will be linked below, along with some other videos I think you may like as well. But in this video today we are specifically going to be looking at the central midfielders United should be targeting. In a previous episode I did look at the premium options that United could target in central midfield. That video will be linked in the eye above and description below. But in this video we're going to be looking at some better value for money options. We'll start off with a player I've been a fan of for quite a long time, and it's Lyon's Maxence Caqueret. Profiling Caqueret, he's a diminutive central midfielder. He's not actually as small as he looks. He's around 5'8", 5'9", but he does have a very low centre of gravity, which actually does benefit his game. He is superb technically, able to receive the ball in congested areas, and either use his short passing ability to play his way out of trouble with a series of short passes, or he can use his tight ball control and low centre of gravity to spin out of pressure and drive the attack forward. If I had to compare him to someone, I would say stylistically he's very like Marco Verratti, in the sense that he's a deeper lying creative player. He's not going to be the type of box-to-box midfielder who's going to push further forward and create chances and get into goal-scoring positions when in the final third. Instead, if he was in Ten Hag's central midfield alongside Casemiro, he'd be the player to drop in and aid the build-up, utilising his wonderful technical abilities, and then in the middle third he's going to be the player who drops deep, looks to receive the ball, play incisive passes between the lines, but the majority of his creative work will be in the defensive and middle third. And we can see this ball progressing ability when we look at his FB ref report. He ranks pretty highly for his short and medium passes. Not quite as high for his long passing numbers, though he is still recording decent numbers, but it's when we come to his actual creative output where we see how highly he ranks. He ranks in the 69th percentile for his XG assisted, the 77th for his expected assists, the 73rd for his key passes, the 78th for his passes into the penalty area, and he also ranks in the 90th percentile for his overall progressive passes, and most impressively he ranks in the 95th percentile for his passes into the final third. Caqueret also possesses the ball carrying ability that Ten Hag would want from a central midfielder, ranking in the 86th percentile for his dribbles completed, so he could be dropping into deep areas during the build-up, receiving the ball and using his low centre of gravity alongside his dribbling ability to spin out of pressure, allowing United to progress the attack forward in a way they can't do as effectively with either Christian Eriksen or Fred in that role. The only downside really with Maxence Caqueret is that he is more of a deeper lying central midfielder, and with Ten Hag often liking to push his central midfielders in between the lines and often having them breaking into the box, that definitely is an area that Caqueret has to improve on, as he only ranks in the 42nd percentile for his non-penalty XG and the 34th percentile for his non-penalty goals. However, he does rank in the 76th percentile for his XG assisted, suggesting that if he is used in a more advanced role to the one he is currently being used in the Lyon midfield, then we could see this metric increase, and Caqueret improve his chance creating output. But a young Frenchman would also improve United's midfield from a defensive point of view as well. He has the same sort of tenacity and reading of the game that we see from Casemiro, which enables him to win the ball back high up the pitch, which is going to be extremely effective in Ten Hag's pressing system. And we can see this as he sits in the 83rd percentile for his overall tackles won, and breaking that metric down further we can see that he ranks in the 65th percentile for his tackles in the defensive third, the 92nd for his tackles in the middle third, and the 99th percentile for his tackles in the attacking third. He also ranks in the 95th percentile for the amount of dribblers he's tackling, as well as the 99th percentile for the amount of dribbles he's contested. However, the fact that he ranks in just the 37th percentile for the percentage of dribblers he's tackled, and in the first percentile, which is the bottom percentile, for the amount of times he's dribbled past per 90, tells me that Caqueret isn't the type of central midfielder who's a great one-on-one defender, and he is going to probably have the same sort of problem that we see from Fred in central midfield, where when he gets isolated in a big area he is easy to glide past, but he is going to be extremely effective higher up the pitch, being a player who is going to be putting in a high volume of tackles and who is going to be winning the ball high up the pitch a lot more than either Fred or Eriksen. He does rank in the 60th percentile for his interceptions and the 71st percentile for the amount of errors he's made, but those numbers are definitely going to increase as he improves in the next few years. So I wouldn't put it past Caqueret becoming one of the best pressing central midfielders in all of world football in the next few seasons. But it does have to be factored in that Caqueret is only 22 years old, 23 mid-February, so he's going to improve significantly and is as much as a decade away from his peak. Until recently he did have a contract that was running out this summer, however he has signed a new deal at Lyon which expires in the summer of 2027, so United are going to have to pay a bit more money than they perhaps would have had to had they planned this out a bit earlier. But I don't think the fee would be eye-watering, probably around £40 million, and he'd probably be on between 100 and 150k per week, which given his age and his profile seems like very good value for money to me. My next option is a player who is a bit older than Caqueret, but he is entering or in his peak at the moment, and that is Napoli's 27-year-old Cameroonian central midfielder Andre Frank Zambo Anguissa. Now Anguissa possesses a lot of the same attributes as Caqueret, but he is fundamentally a different type of central midfielder to the Frenchman. He's definitely more of a physical central midfielder, being taller and a bit more athletic than Caqueret. And whilst I describe Caqueret as more of a deeper line playmaker, I describe Anguissa as more of a box-to-box midfielder. Like Caqueret, Anguissa is a very good carrier of the ball, ranking in the 93rd percentile for his dribbles completed. But his style of dribbling is a bit more different. He is still very silky and very technically good, able to swivel out of pressure, but he's a lot more physically imposing, and so has the ability to drive forward powerfully with the ball at his feet. But whilst I would say he's a better carrier of the ball than Caqueret, in terms of his passing, I don't think he's as good. He ranks in the 58th percentile for his passes into the final third, and the 53rd for his passes into the penalty area, and just the 43rd for his overall progressive passes. His medium passing metrics are around the same sort of range, and his long passing numbers are even lower, and so he's not the type of central midfielder to receive the ball from deep and switch to play with a long raking pass out to the flanks. However, he excels when it comes to his short passing, ranking around the low to mid 90s for his short passes completed and for his pass completion rate for those passes. And so what we can see is that Anguissa is a very different player in possession to Christian Eriksen, being much better at progressing the ball via carrying the ball at his feet and driving through the centre of the pitch, rather than through his long and incisive passes as Eriksen does. But Anguissa can offer creativity in the final third, ranking in the 68th percentile for his XG assisted and the 97th percentile for his overall assists. He also sits in the 77th percentile for his non-penalty XG and the 63rd for his non-penalty goals. But the real selling point with Anguissa, along with his ball carrying ability, is what he can provide from a defensive point of view, and in particular when in pressing situations. He's almost used as a pressing offensive weapon in Luciano Spalletti's high pressing system, pushing forward to join the high pressure and using his anticipation alongside his standing tackling ability to win the ball back high up the pitch, which puts his side in a tremendous attacking position, and this is something that Ten Hag would definitely be looking for in a new central midfielder. And we can see how good Anguissa is at doing this, as he ranks in the 94th percentile for his tackles in the attacking third, whilst also ranking in the 73rd percentile for the percentage of dribblers he's tackled, and the 70th percentile for the amount of times he's been dribbled past, which combined with the fact that he ranks in the 65th percentile for his interceptions, shows that Anguissa isn't a sole defensive midfielder. He's a player that has a bit of everything. The ability to turn away and drive out of pressure, carrying the ball up the pitch, getting into the final third and creating chances and getting into goal scoring positions himself, whilst also being a superb pressing midfielder as well, and just overall he's going to be a player that's going to be very competent in most defensive duels. He would cost a bit more than Caqueret, I'd estimate between 50 and 60 million pounds, but he is coming into his peak. But I do think he'd provide a very good balance alongside Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes. The next player on my list is another Lyon player. It's Houssem Aouar, whose contract at Lyon does expire at the end of the season, meaning that United would be able to pick him up on a free transfer. Despite being around for what seems like almost a decade, Houssem Aouar is only 24-25 in the summer. Like Caqueret, Aouar is an extremely aesthetically pleasing player to watch, very silky and smooth in the way he dribbles with the ball, reminding me a lot of players like Andres Iniesta and Bernardo Silva. Like Frankie de Jong, who I did speak about in the previous episode of this series, which will be linked in the description below, Aouar is extremely press resistant, and so is going to be perfect in the build-up phase, dropping deep, receiving the ball with his back to goal under pressure, and being able to use his low centre of gravity and close ball control to swivel out of congested areas. And we can see this as he ranks in the 92nd percentile for the amount of dribbles he's completing, and he is one of the best central midfield dribblers in all of Europe. The one concern I would have is that he maybe hasn't learned when to dribble and when to move the ball in a bit quicker, as at the moment he's only completing around 40% of his dribbles, which ranks in the 17th percentile, and he ranks in the 27th percentile for his missed controls and the 10th for the amount of times he's been dispossessed. So this is definitely an area of Aouar's game that he does need to work on. However, he has got the ability there, and so I do think that under the right coaching, Aouar could become one of the most press resistant central midfielders in the world. So Aouar definitely has the ability to progress the ball forward via carrying it at his feet, but he can also do so via his passing. For his short passes completed and his overall short passing completion, he ranks very high in the mid 80th to low 90th percentiles. He also ranks pretty decently for both his medium and long passes, though he's not the type of player to receive the ball and switch play with a long Hollywood pass. He's much better at moving the ball forward via a series of short passes, and so he would definitely suit Ten Hag's possession-orientated system. He ranks in the 90th percentile for his passes into the final third, and the 76th percentile for his passes into the penalty area, and the 78th percentile for his overall progressive passes. showing that Aouar is definitely going to be able to do what Christian Eriksen does in this Manchester United side, which is moving the ball into attacking areas further up the pitch. But Aouar is also very productive when it comes to the final third as well, which is definitely needed, as we know that Ten Hag does like to use essentially 2 3/8s in front of Casemiro, which at the moment is Eriksen and Fernandes, and often pushing them up in between the lines in and around the final third. I think he would definitely suit United's quick transition in attack, as he ranks in the 93rd percentile for his through balls, meaning that he's more than capable of filling Eriksen's role in this attack, being able to receive the ball after a turnover and thread the pass into someone like Bruno Fernandes, or be that Bruno Fernandes-like player to receive the ball in an advanced position and thread a through ball, looking for the run of players like Rashford and Antony ahead. And he's certainly a creative force in this regard, ranking in the 85th percentile for his XG assisted, the 90th percentile for his expected assists, and the 80th percentile for his key passes. But he's also a huge goal scoring threat from midfield as well, ranking in the 99th percentile for his non-penalty XG, and the 95th percentile for his non-penalty goals. And so in terms of the numbers, in 21-22 he scored 6 goals in 36 games, and the season before that was 7 in 30. This season he's been in and out of the Lyon side, so he's only played 8 matches and scored 1 goal. But on average he's probably going to contribute 1 goal maybe every 6 or 7 games, picking up between 6 and 9 goals over the course of a whole season. Defensively, he's certainly not your typical ball winner like Casemiro is, but he'd definitely be a massive improvement on Christian Eriksen, offering a nice blend between what Eriksen offers in possession and what Fred offers out of possession. And we can see this clearly when we compare the defensive metrics in Aouar's FBref report to Christian Eriksen's. You can see here that just by looking at the defensive parts of both players' FBref reports that Aouar overall is much superior to Christian Eriksen, but in particular you can see that when we look at the tackles in the attacking third, Aouar ranks in the 90th percentile, with Eriksen ranking in just the 34th. We can also see that Aouar ranks in the 53rd percentile for his interceptions, whereas Eriksen ranks in just the 12th, so Aouar is going to be a much superior pressing player, higher up the pitch, and so when we see Ten Hag sometimes move out Eriksen from that central midfield position, putting Fred in that area, particularly in big games, he probably won't have to do this with Aouar in the team, as Aouar will be more than capable of fulfilling these pressing obligations. In regards to how he compares to Anguissa and Caqueret, I'd definitely say he's more like his Lyon teammate, being very good at evading pressure with his diminutive low centre of gravity style, having excellent close ball control, and being very good in terms of being able to play short passes in congested areas. And of the 3, Aouar is definitely the least physical and probably the weakest defensively of the 3, even though I do think all 3 would be very good in a high pressing system, but I would definitely say that he is the best in terms of his offensive output. And so essentially, whilst all these 3 players are very similar, being able to play a similar type of role in the United system, they are playing slightly different variations of that role. When I say role, I should probably just say position, as I mean playing that position alongside Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes. But in Ten Hag's system, because it's so fluid and players pop up in so many different positions, they are kind of all classed as 3/8s, players who should be able to move between the lines, sitting higher up the pitch, but also move in front of the opposition's midfield line as well. But Caqueret is definitely more of a deeper line playmaker, a player who excels in these deeper areas in front of the opposition's midfield line, progressing the ball into the final third by playing incisive passes into players between the lines, whereas Anguissa is going to be much better in the transition, winning the ball back and being able to burst forward with the ball, driving forward powerfully and playing those forward passes as he likes to do for Napoli. And so Anguissa is going to be playing more of a box-to-box midfielder role with a lot more physicality in his game, whereas Aouar is definitely going to be more of a roaming playmaker. As whereas Caqueret offers more in those deeper zones, Aouar is definitely better when he's pushing forward, getting in and around the box and providing a goal-scoring and creative threat. Now in terms of cost, Aouar definitely has the biggest advantage, as he is going to be available on a free, with Anguissa being likely the most expensive, and because of his age, his overall profile doesn't look as good as Aouar's and Caqueret's, I would say. So those were my alternative, better value for money options for Manchester United to target in a central midfield area, and in the next episode of the series I will be comparing those players alongside my more premium options, which I did put in the previous episode, which I will be linking in the description below, so definitely check that out. In that video I'll be breaking down which player I would actually target for Manchester United, taking into account price, age and how they would fit into the system as a whole. So if you enjoyed that video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, check the description for more videos as well. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram for more content, and put your thoughts on who United should sign